Kevin, do you want to pray for us?
Yes, please bow with me. Our most gracious and kind Heavenly Father, ask that you lead, guide, and direct this court in our course of business, Lord, and please guide us to make the decisions that you would have us make and bring glory to you, Lord. Pray for our friends in eastern Kentucky who are still struggling from the flooding, many of those displaced. Lord, give them strength and courage to get through this, Lord. As always, please be with our first responders. Give them knowledge and guidance they need to perform their jobs and bring them home safely each and every day. Ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and call Marsh County Fiscal Court to order September 6th, 2022. Chad McCann, you're first on the agenda. Just a note while he's coming up, Laurel, we've got a Zoom link set up for Laurel. It may just be voice. She's in eastern Kentucky, and right now she's in traffic and doesn't have good cell service, so we'll get her on the agenda at some point today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Erica's got an appointment, so she needs to go first.
Sorry about that.
I apologize. So we're going to be jumping down on the agenda.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the transfers. These are item G. There are 3 transfers that are department head request transfers. There's one for the park, one for 911, and one for the judge's department. There's also a transient tax transfer of $66,875.60.
Move we approve transfers.
Is there a second?
What's the legal?
Are you referring to in my office?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm moving monies that were budgeted for the deputy judge's position to the legal line. We estimated about $20,000. Is there an issue?
Well, just what it is. What's the reasoning behind it? I guess we had 10,000 in there. Well, I guess 2 things really. I don't understand using the deputy judge line for something like that, because I think we've kept that amount in case we needed it, correct?
When you say we,
As far as the budget is concerned, is that not why it was kept that way?
the previous year, I think, was the same amount, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, it is, but as far as the budget, if that's your question, it is
Right.
budgeted at a full-time position.
Yeah,
Are you
Yes.
talking about from the budget workshop?
yeah,
So that would be new dollars. These are budgeted dollars that I'm moving into from one line in my budget into another line.
I know, but it would take our ability for that job to be full-time. Correct? We're making an assumption that he is not going to work full-time.
He's not been working full-time.
Okay.
He's been working based off hours for how many budget years?
I think that was last summer, so
Yeah.
a year.
I don't think I'm following as far as, this is a budget appropriations within my department.
I'm not going to vote to move another 20,000 into that line. I have a problem with 10 being in the line with the county attorney that we can access for any of our legal needs, so that's my opinion.
I don't have an issue with the 10, we budgeted it. I just don't understand increasing it by another 20.
Well, currently, without getting into further details, we are looking at a federal lawsuit, which is basically putting it on the backs of the taxpayers to be funded. I oppose that.
Okay. I'm not following you on that, so.
I'm trying to be as limited as possible because of a federal lawsuit. So when it comes to legal monies, absolutely, I'm going to protect the county purse.
But we have do we not have an attorney, outside counsel
Who is
currently?
we?
The fiscal court, the county.
Do we?
Well, if we're talking about
We do.
the federal case that I mean, we have two federal cases, I guess, but in both of those cases that I'm aware of, we have outside counsel through CAECO.
Well, I feel there is a conflict, and again, I don't want to go too further into it, but when it comes to appropriations within the department head's budgets, there's monies that are in my budget, and I'm moving monies from one line to another line. So to me, that is the process. As we just heard, there's 3 departments that we're doing this. So my department, as we just heard from one commissioner, who is opposed, because I assume you think that county attorney provides the legal defense for the fiscal court. Am I accurate on that?
No, I'm not saying he provides a legal defense. That'll be the attorneys through CAECO. He's there to provide advice for us and to move money out of the deputy judge's lines, not knowing if the deputy judge will be full-time after the first of the year is not acceptable either. So,
But that can be a totally different appropriation from a future court. Currently, right now, based off of what you just said, not even having $10,000 in a legal line. I've had a legal line for several years.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
making an appropriation from one line to another is not uncommon. So I'm still trying to understand why there's an issue today.
we've got attorneys through CAECO for any representation you may need.
Who's we?
The court. Am I wrong, Jason?
Court, yes. He's representing the fiscal court.
Who else is he representing?
Me, Kevin, Eddie.
Hence the conflict. So,
Jason, I can also remember a time when Judge Miller was in there. I can remember 3 different occasions that he got outside counsel, and there was never any question about it. I believe, just like I believe with the Sheriff's Department, the County Clerk's Office, whatever, it's his department. We shouldn't be micromanaging it. It's money that's already appropriated. If he wants to move it into another line, let him move it into another line.
and
Right
and I
now,
would-
there is no conflict. There's a common defense.
as issues like this, I know you spoke to the deputy judge. Out of respect, I think my office would have enjoyed a phone call. But there's a motion on the table. If there's further discussion, I'd be all ears to hear it. But this is nothing more than an appropriation of monies from one line to another line. The same argument could be said to any department. From what I'm hearing, we shouldn't be making any appropriation changes. Essentially saying county government should just stop today. And I totally oppose that. You can't do that.
How would what I just said stop county government?
Well, I'm aware of information that there's going to be potential needs for legal monies out of my department. And I've yet to hear any reason why there shouldn't be.
If a conflict arises, CAECO will provide another attorney.
I agree with Commissioner Lamb on this.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
If a conflict arises, CAECO will provide a different attorney.
Okay.
Correct. And I'm waiting on a phone call as soon as we get done with court today to discuss that. There is a conflict. The conflict that I see is that it's being put on the county purse, and I'm going to fight that. That's my position. But we're talking about appropriations from within departments.
My vote will be no on that.
Is there any other or further discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion. I'll second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
No.
Motion dies.
Right, excuse me, that is for the whole transfer, in case you'll approve some of my other transfers. That's something we can discuss.
You can take up the other two separately.
And the transient tax. Please.
I move we make the other transfers other than that legal.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? In my opinion, I think it speaks for itself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to vote for this so that county government can continue. But ultimately, I totally disagree with singling out my office. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I think the only thing, other thing that you all might need me for is when you discuss the tax rates. If the county can set its tax rates today, the refuse is the only other taxing district that I don't have their rates from them yet. Their meeting is the 17th, and then they'll get those to me. And so if you all set yours today, we get theirs on the 17th, then our next court meeting, I'll ask the judge to put the entire rate on the order so that we can get that approved, and that can be sent off to the clerk to print property tax bills. I don't know that you'll need me for, we have advertised for bids for the audit on there, and that's just so that we can get some quotes for some different firms for the audit, for the 2022 audit.
Right, and in the advertisement, since it's professional service, in years past, the treasurer has just reached out to audit firms as far as if the court is interested in saving monies, we can bypass the advertisement and just allow the treasurer to go out and solicit costs from audit firms,
So
since
moved.
we're talking about saving county dollars today.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is that all you needed? I have no idea. So, but thank you. Okay, Chad, you're up.
Good morning. I'm just here today to give an update on the water projects and one small sewer project out there at the industrial park this morning. I'm going to start with the sewer project just because it's going to break ground actually tomorrow on that section over there. Just as far as the industrial park is concerned, there's a small sewer extension. It's going to cross the access road that's going to extend back to the pad ready site. It's my understanding that Mertco contractors will start on that in coordination with Smith tomorrow, and should go probably for the next week or two, depending on how the digging goes through that area. So that work is ongoing, or will be ongoing as of tomorrow, to get that work done to open up that area for a little bit more development and future growth out there in the industrial park. Is there any questions on that?
Will that gravity flow to the lift station? I drove out there the other day.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep, everything ties. The master plan is for everything to go to that lift station.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Any other questions on that one? All right. Jump into the hardened water projects. Next, the one down at Hunter Road and Walnut Grove Road. We've been doing a lot of work since I last spoke with you all on that. At this time, we've secured all but one easement on the project, for the two projects rather, down there. The Division of Water has received our full design submittal. They're reviewing that right now. Expect approval from them probably within the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, probably at most, on that one. The one easement that we have outstanding, we're not getting any negative response from the owner. Just a matter of coordination. Lives out of town, trying to get in touch with them to make sure we can get to an agreement on that. But all the rest of them have been very positive, very supportive of the project. Everything's been moving along very well. The next step in that process, once we get the approval from the Division of Water, is moving forward towards procurement of the project. And something that we've all experienced in the utility world over the last year, and especially the last 6 months, is material availability. So one thing that we're actually going to go through and we're preparing right now is a material bid package, and basically breaking it up to get the materials ordered first, and that should save 2 to 3 months of lead time getting everything under construction, rather than waiting to bid the materials and the labor all at one time, which would then just prolong the process further into the year and possibly make it, to where we're not building the project until sometime into next year. So we're trying to speed up that time frame a little bit and get into that. So we're preparing the bid packages right now. Expect to have that prepared within the next week or so, and then we'll present that to you all for advertising that for bids, for material bids for that project down there in Hardin. So that should save some money in taxes on that end, and then hopefully, get things moving along from a time perspective a little better. Any questions on the Hardin projects down there? All right. The next one, the Oak Level, West Marshall Water Projects. We've also been working on those quite a bit over the last month on that one. We've completed several field reviews, initial surveys on the project so far. A lot of utility locates are going on right now, getting paint on the ground, pin flags. We're picking that up with our survey team. We've sent notification letters out to all the property owners along the alignments out through there, kind of getting them up to speed on what we're doing and the process that we're going through. Again, very positive responses from all the folks out there. It is apparent we're going to need some easements, so having that positive response from the public's very good. Don't anticipate any conflicts, right now from that standpoint. So that's very good. We'll be working over the next month to get some preliminary alignments together. Once we get the alignments together, then we'll have a little bit better idea of what side of the road we're going to focus on for these water extensions, and then we'll actually move to the next step, actually approaching the property owners about the easements at that time. So still a little bit of ways out on that, but as soon as the utility locates come through, that all should flow pretty smooth. Benton Gas has been working with us very well. Trying to get the AT&T locators out there is a little difficult sometimes, but we're trying to stay on them best we can to get all those utilities located on each of the alignments through there. Other than that, really just, pressing through as fast as we can. A lot of data to process on all the water lines, so starting to get our plans developed, starting getting basically the process flowing here on our end from the design standpoint. And we'll have a better update probably in the next 2 weeks to a month on our progress there once all the survey data comes in. Any questions?
Since the last time you were here, we do have good news on the my
PB Cloud?
district's project, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Calvert City was awarded the grant through the Cleaner Water Program for the PB Cloud Road Mulberry Lane project. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
So they were
Yes, sir.
awarded?
They were awarded full grant for that project. Yes, sir.
Where did the announcement come from? Because I just sent an email to James at the pad asking, the last correspondence that I had received from the state was that they had closed out the cycle and that they were going to be announcing at some point awarding dollars to the projects. Was that the only project? Because we had two that you can think of.
It was a little odd. After some correspondence with KIA, they finally published a list on their website. So if you go on the KIA's website, you'll be able to see the last round, what they call the unserved water projects that we were talking about. And the two projects we had in there was the Oak Level project and Calvert City's project. And unfortunately, the Oak Level project did not receive any funding on that.
So the Calvert City project was completely funded?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm trying to go off the top of my memory here. It was about 500,000, 400 and something thousand.
We'd estimate almost 700 total project.
Well, I think that 700,000 was calculated wrong with engineering costs.
No, it was actually over $1 million.
It was over $1 million.
There was an incorrect calculation with the engineering fees, which pushed that budget over $1 million. When you make that correction, then it pulls it back down under $1 million
Okay.
for that grant project. But the grant covers
100% of it?
Over and above $1 million right now is what was approved.
Okay. Well, that's good news because the tornado disaster, we got 400,000 from North Marshall's project to repair what was damaged in the tornado. I don't think we're going to get any more monies from FEMA. That total project was close to $1 million. So that would free up our ARPA monies that we could commit to North Marshall Water District to help on the replacement of their lines that were damaged.
Sure. Yep.
Good.
Yeah, as far as the budget numbers we had prepared for the court, the $700,000 is the number that we had in the total budget for the fiscal court to review at that time. Yes, sir.
They're short 600,000. No, I'll just advise the court. That's what I'll be bringing to the court, probably in the next court meeting.
All right. And I have spoken with the mayor, Monty, about that project. We've got a contract there, but they're just waiting on the paperwork to go through on their grant. So kind of waiting for that process to get moving, just waiting on paperwork to pass through. Y'all have any other questions on any of those water projects? All right.
Nope. Appreciate it, Chad.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jill Lewis from Peel and Holland. Good morning.
How are you all?
Good.
We're in a good mood today.
I'll take the wrinkled one.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, since you're
Yeah. Hey, Jill,
Yes, sir.
I just realized we have a public hearing at 10. Do you mind waiting a little bit? Sorry, we have to,
want me to?
just sit, yeah, if you, no, you can,
Can I pass these?
yes, yes, we can review these. I just realized it's 10 a.m. and we have a public hearing. Okay, thank you, Jill. We have a scheduled public hearing at 10 for road petitions, and we have both Walton Lane. So we'll go ahead and go with Walton Lane first. All right. The petition to the Fiscal Court is regarding Walton Lane, to take Walton Lane out of the county maintenance program. Is there anybody here for Walton Lane? Is there anybody here for Walton Lane? Is there anybody here for Walton Lane? Hearing none. Is there anybody here against Walton Lane being taken out of the county maintenance program? Is there anybody here against Walton Lane being taken out? Is there anybody here against Walton Lane being taken out? Hearing none, we'll meet the statutory requirement. The next one is Crooked Oak Loop. This is to petition to take the private road of Crooked Oak Loop into the county maintenance program. Is there anybody against? Is there anybody against? And is there anybody against taking Crooked Oak Loop into the county maintenance program? Hearing none, is there anybody for? I see Gary, you're here. Step up to the mic there, sir. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm here representing 7 other residents on the paved portion of Crooked Oak Loop. We're not asking the county to take in the unpaved portion, only the paved portion. I know we turned in paperwork showing that paved portion. I don't know if all the members have got pictures of that, but there are a total of 8 residents that live on that road. I know back in 2003, there was paperwork submitted to take in the road, and it was turned down. Just to give you a little history of why we're doing this. Years ago, before it was, while it was a gravel road, several of the residents talked with the former county judge, the executive, Mike Miller, who came out, talked to the residents out there and told them what the road needed in order to be taken into the county system. Well, that was done. The residents hired Earl Dawson, who has, I think now is gone. Anyway, they hired Earl to come in and do all the grading work. And Earl Dawson, I'm not sure who he had to come pave it, but it was paved, and it met the county standards at that time. Once that all the paving was done and the shoulders were put in, we asked Mike Miller to come back out, and at that time he told us the county standard had changed and they would not take the road in. I know in the past there's been a petition submitted to take this road in, and not all of the proper paperwork was submitted. I'm 100% certain all of the proper paperwork is here. The reason that Mr. Sires and I are here representing the 8 families that live back there, there's 6 families that have school-age children. We're not even asking the bus to come back there. Right now, the bus stops at Holland Road, at the intersection of Holland Road and Crooked Oak Loop. And nobody minds coming out there and meeting the bus. We have a parking spot there, so we're not blocking anybody's road or anybody's driveways. But we are asking that the county take Crooked Oak Loop over according to the map that I have turned in. Anything else? The residents back there, to the best of my knowledge, chipped in together and paid Earl Dawson $30,000 to pave that road. He did all the grading work, put in the shoulders, and had it paved. Not exactly sure if it meets the county's standard exactly, but we feel like we should be grandfathered. There's been people living back there for over 20 years. And we did everything that the county asked at that time, and we feel like it's time. Anybody have any questions of me? Surely I didn't do that good a job that there's no questions.
I know you've shared the story with me, Gary. I had Corey research, and we don't find, so as far as when you say that communication was made with the judge executive then, with Mike Miller, that the road resolution, we can pull up what the current road resolution was during 2003, but we don't show anything in the minutes, meaning that it didn't make a public hearing like what we do today. So just to advise the court, as far as on the administrative side, when a petition is presented to the court, we obviously have a public hearing by state law. That apparently never happened. So it kind of validates to some degree what you're saying, that there was communication prior to that was had or could have been had that didn't progress to the next level of the process. So I just want to advise the court, we researched and didn't find any public hearing or action by the fiscal court.
Per the newly passed, both of those road resolutions, a few months ago, then the road department, road superintendent will have to go out there first, right?
Yeah, well, that is procedural. We'll get to the 3 members that go out and do a road review for the current resolution, but I think the big question here is there was communication in 2003 out of the judge executive's office. The way I'm understanding today is that there was actions taken by the residents to get it up to the then county resolution, and then the resolution in 2003 changed, I'm assuming, based off of what Gary's saying. So today's resolution is not even close to the 2003 resolution. I know just in years past, we've pulled resolutions over the years. I know one of the first roads that I had to deal with in 15 or 16, was it Cary Landing? We had to pull the road resolution, and there was questions as far as how it was written. I didn't feel that it benefited the residents who would want to petition the court. And so we have since changed the road resolution. But I think for this particular situation regarding Crooked Oak Loop, the paved portion, is that clearly it shows it was gravel, I'm assuming, before it was paved.
Yes, sir.
So the entire loop was gravel, because half of it is still gravel. But it sounds to me, from what I'm hearing, residents upheld their end of a discussion. But as far as a road resolution being changed, and no further action being taken on that particular road, I think that that's the big question, in my opinion, pertaining to this road.
If we go back to, which we talked about many, many times, when we were discussing that road resolution and what we were going to do, my past personal experience with it was the same as what we're talking about here, but the difference was, though, that we came back after that was paved and did the petition right after it. So are you saying that wasn't done, or those discussions were outside of court after it was done, I guess is my question.
I don't think I understand what you're saying.
So, like, for instance, Gary, in our particular situation with Opal Lane, we did the same thing that you all did. They said, here's the specs. Road superintendent at the time came out, said, here's what you're required to do. We all chipped in a substantial amount of money to pay for that to be done, and then we went, after that was done, and did the petition to ask that it be taken in. And it was taken in because it was done to the county specs at that time, if that makes sense. I guess my question is, after it was paved, did you all come back to the court, or was it just coming back to the judge executive at the time? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand where you're coming from. If you will allow me, I'm going to read a 5-line paragraph out of the Fiscal Court, June 11th, 2013. Jim Sires addressed the court regarding Crooked Oak Loop. He informed that the road was blacktopped in 2003 and met the county specifications for being accepted into the county road maintenance system. Mr. Sires was given a petition which he will have signed and submit as required. Judge Miller appointed Russell York, Josh Tubbs, and Bobby Gifford as road reviewers.
Okay.
Again, in August, the petition was submitted.
August of
August
2013,
2013.
it was submitted. And what happened?
Obviously, nothing.
Well, but there would have had to be action on it, right, if it was submitted?
Next
It
month.
probably was in September or October.
Okay.
I have that information here. I'm sorry I missed it. This was Fiscal Court, September 3rd of 2013. County Attorney's Office identified some issues with the petition. No copies of deeds were supplied. No proof of 2 residents in existence for 15 years was supplied. Unsure exactly what the petitioners want taken into the road system. Petition was signed by 11 property owners. CNC surveying tried to determine the width of the road, and they couldn't say for sure because James Kane drafted the plat, and he's now retired. They looked at one of their plats in 2003 and stated the road was 40 feet wide. That's all I've got.
Did that answer your
A
question?
reminder that the entire Crooked Oak Loop is in fact a loop. When the residents decided that they wanted the road paved, not every resident on that road wanted to chip in. I don't know if any of you have been down Crooked Oak Loop.
I have.
When you go in, it's blacktop, and then the blacktop turns to the right and the gravel goes to the left. Those folks on the gravel road did not want their road paved. They were afraid that it would raise their property taxes, so they did not want it paved. But everybody on the right-hand side, where it is currently paved, wanted it then, and they still want it now. So we're not asking the county to take in the unpaved portion. We're only asking the county to take in the paved portion, the portion that has already been paved, paid for by the residents, and identified on the paperwork and the petition that we've turned in. The only reason some of the other residents aren't here is they're all younger than me. They don't have white hair, and they're working.
Yeah.
One resident is here, Mr. Jim Sires is here. He was involved in hiring Earl Dawson and probably paid a large portion out of his own pocket to have that done.
Monty, on your example, you mentioned the road that you lived on. Did you say that that was petitioned to the court? And did the court take action on that?
Yeah. I mean, from my memory, it was probably the year before that. Do you have Opal Lane?
Which road?
Opal Lane?
Opal Lane.
Do y'all remember that? It was petitioned and approved after it was done, right? Yeah. I don't know what year it was. I mean, I sold my house in 2000. It was probably 2010 or 11, yeah, something like that.
So what you're saying is that the residents paid for it to be brought up to a resolution, and then the court accepted it into the county maintenance program. Yeah, so from what I'm hearing from Gary is that the residents carried out their end of the situation.
At that time, that is correct. We did exactly what the then Judge Executive Miller asked us to do.
What year was Opal Lane?
Oh.
2013?
I'm looking at, I think it was before that. Was it? Opal Lane?
I would assume it was before that.
Well, I think the meeting minutes from January 3rd, 2013, it
Okay.
mentioned a public hearing was held in December of 2012.
Okay.
So it would,
So the end of 2012, and then.
Beginning of
looks like it-
13.
Yeah.
but the public hearing was 2012?
For Opal.
But I get, if I remember right, though, at that time, I'm sure, and it was Russell, I believe Russell was right at the time, came out. You know, of course, the agreement was he would do the engineering, the county would engineer it or tell us what needed, and then we had to pay the full amount to Smith. And I think the majority of property owners chipped in, but of course it was a little different because it was the entire road, and it was that amount times about 10, I think, at that time. But then I do believe he came back out and said that it was done to specs, and then the petition was done again, and soon passed.
But there was one for Opal Lane. It's consistent. Basically, there was a public hearing in 2012 for Opal Lane, but there wasn't one in 2003 or 2004, which is consistent with
What about 2013?
for Crooked Oak. A public hearing?
So
You
what?
think there was?
Well, there was a petition filed in 2013. Right, Gary?
Yes. I think you said that, right? August 2013, the petition was submitted.
Well, this was June of 2013 when Mr. Sires addressed the court.
Right.
He was given a petition, which he will have signed and submitted. Judge Miller appointed Russell York, Josh Chubbs, and Bobby Gifford as road viewers. A petition was submitted. This is in the August 2013 Fiscal Court minutes on page 3, for those of you who are looking. Anita Stevenson, when the county attorney's office identified, now this was in September 3rd, identified issues with the petition. No copies of deeds were supplied. I think I read that to you already.
Yeah.
Several other problems were listed, and I don't have anything else after that. There may have been other things. It does say here that past Commissioner Anderson will contact Jim Sires concerning additional information needed on the petition. And I can't address anything after that. That was September 17th fiscal court meeting.
So that was more of a discussion on the petition
Sir, I can only.
from what you're
can only
reading.
address what I have here.
Correct.
I have been told, and I'll just be honest with you, that the road does not meet the current standards. But the residents that have submitted this petition are not interested in making the road as wide as what the county requires. If it could just get paved, that's all everybody back there is asking. We're not asking to go above and beyond or even to bring it up to county standards. Should the county want to do that, it will not be a problem with any of the residents. But if they just pave it, maintain it, everybody back there will be 100% satisfied.
So you're saying it needs to be paved? I thought it was paved.
Well, you're going back, if you go back to 2003 when this first discussion occurred, the intent, from what I'm hearing, is in 2003 was to bring it in the county maintenance program. That never happened. It sounded as if from the judge's office that never happened. 2013 was an attempt to petition and have a public hearing to bring it into the county maintenance program. And items that were identified based on the petition is, from what I'm hearing in the minutes, is why it didn't go further. I think we're missing the gorilla in the room, for a lack of a better example. The intent from the taxpayers on that road in 2003 was to bring the road into the county maintenance program. For whatever reason, that never happened. This has been an issue over the years, and I can tell you that there's many roads in this county that probably fall under that same umbrella. I can't speak for the previous individuals of the fiscal court, but some would shy away from it because they're there's no easy way to handle the road issues that we have in our county without setting a precedence. But I think the issue is that we have taxpayers who are petitioning, having discussions with elected officials to find a way to bring it into the county maintenance program. And obviously, we just heard over the years, we're almost, 20 plus years on this particular road. If anybody drives out there, I drove out there, you can see where Crooked Oak Loop is, just as he stated, paved on one side, gravel on the other side. The bus stop, I know the constraints that the parents and grandparents have with the bus stop. I sent Roy out to help with the school to give a parking area for the bus stop, or the bus to turn around on. And this is just my personal opinion. As an elected official, we can continue to kick a can down the road. It's not fixing issues. That's my observation. But either way, this is a public hearing today to hear those for and against. Obviously, we'll have further discussion as we move forward. So,
I am available anytime. I'm retired. If the court has any questions, feel free to call me. I'll make sure that the judge's office and my commissioner has my phone number. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
okay. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I asked once if there was anybody for. Is there anybody else for? Anybody else for? Okay, so we have met the statutory requirement of the public hearing, and we will exit out of the public hearing and go back into fiscal court. Coming out of the public hearing for the road review, I'm going to put Roy, Brad, and Andy Lepisto on the road review to go out and review currently Crooked Oak Loop, the paved portion. And if you can. Okay. Did we hear anybody for or against on Walton? What's the process on that if nobody shows up?
But
the
it's to take
petition
it out.
is in
It's
to
not
take it
to.
out.
Petition to take it out. So we still have to review it though. Yeah. So that's your four, taking it out.
Was it a specified, was it the entire Walton Lane?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's address 772 to the end. So procedurally, I've never asked the question, if no one shows up for or against, does that change anything?
Well, the petition is your four. That counts as a four.
Okay, so the road review will do both Crooked Oak Loop and Walton Lane from address 772 to the end. I think it's 772. Is that Mr. Johnson's address? Okay.
It'd actually need to be past his address.
Yeah, from
Because we built a school bus turnaround past his mailbox.
yeah. Where's the? Yeah, the petition is 772 to the dead end. Okay. Jill, you're up.
Good morning. This isn't very exciting for you guys, sorry. I want to introduce myself really quick. I'm Jill Lewis, and I'm with Pill & Holland. I have worked with Pill & Holland for 8 years and been in the insurance industry for 19 now. I know many of you just because I do travel with Pill & Holland quite a bit with Keiko, and represent several different counties and actually the library here and the water district and lots of things in Marshall County. So you have been assigned me instead of DJ, sorry. I like DJ a little better. Sorry, but I will do my very best and will answer any questions that you have. If I don't have the answer, we'll sure figure it out. Today, we're just kind of reviewing everything. The renewals are out. Kind of want to let you know what I've done, and then please stop me, ask me any questions. KHP, which is the Kentucky State Health Plan, the overall renewal came in with a 10% increase to the Fiscal Court, or overall 10% increase, passing no cost to the employees, and you may have already been aware of that. Marshall County Fiscal Court does pay about 85%, and that is required and set by the state. That is not set by the Fiscal Court. Wanted to let you all know that we did market to every carrier that was available, and unfortunately, majority was neither a savings or they declined to quote. Overall, in the last 12 months, we've had about a 72% loss ratio, which is actually quite a bit better than it was in the past. It was about 86, and we're down to 72, so we have definitely made an improvement overall. We do have the health reimbursement account, and you can see that on the agenda. It is employer-sponsored, and those dollars do not roll over from year to year. Those reset every year. The vision renewal came in. There was no increase. The Delta Dental is what we currently have here at the court, and that is my actual, you can see down a little bit further down, but that is my recommendation. If you'll flip over to page 2, we did have a little bit of an increase, almost a 3% increase to Delta Dental. So we did market that as well. We marketed it to Paramount Dental, which is formerly known as HRI. It's a very strong, super strong network. You're not going to see any changes. However, we currently have 2 plans. So what we did when we talked about this is the employees that are on the core plan, which is the very basic plan, can have the enhanced plan for the exact same price or just a little 5 cents less. So my recommendation was just to maybe, if the employees wanted to move to that, they could move to that just to save some money and have a better plan overall. You can see that if we move to Paramount Dental, overall there is about, for the employee rate goes down quite a bit, so 21% savings. And then you can look at the core plan and it's about a 13% savings if they don't want to move on that. Any questions so far?
Have you dealt with that company before, Paramount?
All the time.
Paramount?
Yeah.
Okay.
Paramount, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's left up to the employee?
The court would vote if it's okay to move away from Delta Dental to HRI. But
Okay.
then if they wanted to move, if the employees that have just the very basic core plan, if they wanted to move to the enhanced plan for 5 cents less, they could, and they have overall better coverage. It's a 2-year rate guarantee. So, and usually we don't see, usually those hold a little bit longer than 2 years, but they do give a 2-year rate guarantee.
I know we, did we budget for 12%? Do you remember? We talked, because we like sent something and I
think-
don't know who got back to us. And
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but I think we did.
either 10 or 12. I was thinking
Worst case,
we were, I was thinking we were being conservative and increased it by 12%, but I might be.
Yeah.
You do? Okay. So we're covered through the budget, but could be potentially a little bit less than that. All right. Okay.
Other than that, there are no other changes. The only other change that I brought to the judge and Erica and Corey and everyone is the main thing is we want to host an open enrollment. We want to improve that. We want to make that a little easier on everyone else. So we just said possibly we would still hold open enrollment here. We may not have it all 3 days. However, we would set up a system to go to each location, department, and that way it's not such a mandatory, because I think it's kind of hectic for everyone at those times. But we can do whatever you want. I'm happy to make it as easy as anybody wants to, or if you guys vote to keep it the same, we can keep it the same. But the main thing is just to, I know it's not easy to make a schedule on Erica and Desiree for everyone to be here at 7:05 or 7:10 or those kinds of things, so we wanted to simplify the process just a little bit. One last thing I do want to talk about is the court has used a system called Employee Navigator before, and that is the reason that we talk about simplifying the open enrollment process. The Employee Navigator system houses all of the court information as far as the employee information of what they're enrolled in, their hours. It's more of an HR system. However, it does the ACA reporting, which has to be reported to the IRS every year. So we had gone away from it where I think Erica and Desiree had done it manually, and we would like to go back. There is no additional cost other than just, and you guys currently pay for it now, is just going and has to mail the 1094, 1095 forms that you all probably receive in the mail, but it's just to make that process simpler for them as well. But there is no additional cost for that, but just housing it and getting it up to date into a system so the enrollment's easier and makes everyone else's life easier when it comes time to tax time.
I would definitely recommend to the court that we streamline, simplify this process, because when you look at a overall view from the private sector, we're, for lack of better terms, we're still doing archaic administrative processes. With the technology that's out there, there is a far more streamed, simplified process, and I would recommend that we execute that. But that's my recommendation.
I will share, Judge Neal, that most everyone that on the fiscal court side that does have CAICO has a system that's almost identical. So this one is one that we use in other fiscal courts that are not on the CAICO system, and this just houses everything just to make life a little bit more simple, so that if an employee calls or if a change needs to be made, it is something that is fed directly to the carrier, kind of a little less for human error, mistakes, kind of get that cleaned up a little bit. So also is a direct, where it goes direct to for Cobra vendor, so that there's no lag, there's no lag in any of that information either. Any questions I can help answer?
So do we need to do you need part of this,
Well,
as far as the open enrollment is concerned? Her question.
I guess my question is, I guess we need to approve the $34,000 that you guys have, we have as a contract with you all to continue our services for Hill and Holland. You're okay to make the changes with Employee Navigator, and if we make a change to the vendor on the Delta, going from Delta Dental to HRI.
Yeah, I definitely recommend Paramount Dental. I think we can make that all in one motion, as she just stated.
All right.
The contract.
I move we approve the contract with Pill and Holland, the move from Delta to Paramount Dental, and use the ACA, Employee Navigator system.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
My information's at the bottom, along with our new account manager, Tyler O'Hannon, so we're happy to help in when we can.
Thank you.
When is open enrollment start?
We haven't set the dates. The state open enrollment will be starting the second week of August on October the 15th. We did ask that we started to simplify the system. We would probably have something to all employees by the end of September. That way they have time to review it, and if changes need to be made, we'll definitely set a day to be in here. And then also if they want to do it as a passive, we would just ask that it be turned in by that day. So probably, we're looking at second, third week of October. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Jill.
Thanks.
Okay. We're going to be in and out with Laurel. She's still having connectivity issues in eastern Kentucky, so we'll try to get her on. Tammy Blackwell, good morning. Good morning. From the Morris County Library.
So I'm going to say I worked with Jill. I know this is your first year with her, but she's been there with the library since I took over as director in March of 2020, and she has been a wonderful resource for me. So just my little endorsement. She's great. If any of you ever have any questions, she is really great about getting back to you quickly and answering in a way you can understand, even if you don't necessarily understand insurance. I hope everybody has one of these. I'm just going to hit some highlights of what the library has done in the past year, because I think we have done an awful lot. First thing on there is we did last August sell the building on 1003 Poplar. I'm very happy about how that went. I believe that is going to be a very attractive space here in Benton once they get done with their construction. And I'm happy to see that space be used and it to be an attractive space and not just a wasted lot. I'm sure there's questions on what we're doing with those funds that we received from that sale. Those are going towards some capital improvement projects that we've had on our radar. For example, there is some drainage issues at our Hardin branch. If you have been there ever, after even a sprinkle, the parking lot is flooding in portions, and it's causing some issues with the land around where the drive-in comes. And so we're working with someone to get that taken care of. There is a section of sidewalk at Hardin that is crumbling that we're going to get replaced. Our meeting room at Calvert City needed some improvements. We've already got the lighting changed out, and we're working on some flooring. If you've been in that one, you know that that was very, very much a need. Carpet and children's programs do not go together well. And we're working on an outdoor meeting space on the corner of 11th and Birch that will free up some more meeting space and offer some new learning opportunities at the library. We will have other capital projects, but as you guys know, right now it's really hard to get people out there. And the longer you wait for somebody to come out, the higher the prices go on materials. And so we prioritize these 3 projects. Once they are completed and we know what's left, then we will go towards other projects that we have. One thing that we have worked very hard on this year is making the library more accessible to the people of Marshall County. Making sure that everybody has an opportunity to use it. So a lot of this is what's happening. The Hotspot Lending Program, you've probably, the governor's press release came out, I think it was about this time last week, and I was honored to be quoted in the governor's press release because our program is going so well. We initially got 50 hotspots for lending, and then we got to where all of them had a wait list on them always. So we recently, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, got 100 additional hotspots through the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And so 50 of those are going into circulation, and the other 50 have gone directly to the Family Resource Centers in Marshall County so that those hotspots can go directly to families who really, really need them. So we're really proud of that program.
We have after-hours pickup now at all 3 branches. So with our after-hours pickup and our digital services, we are basically a 24/7 library. At this point, we have added some handicap-accessible picnic tables to all 3 branches. This gives people a place to sit while they're accessing the Wi-Fi after hours, and it makes it accessible to those in wheelchairs. Our book by mail program begins. So that's for people who cannot make it into the library for various reasons. We mail books to them, and it even goes with a little peel-off thing that they slap on there, and it returns, and they don't pay a penny for that service. We've created temporary and digital access cards to ensure that all people in Marshall County, whether or not they have a permanent residence, I'm sure you know that we have those that are unhoused, that are not necessarily on the street homeless, but they're doing a lot of couch surfing and whatnot. We want to make sure library services are still available to them. So we've got tiered library cards now so that everybody has a chance to get a library card. But if you do not have a permanent residence, it's less items that you can take out to, protect the library financially on that end. We eliminated late fees. And I wish there was a way we could attract this, but I think it saved us a lot of money. I really honestly do. We did not charge much for late fees. They were like 10 cents a book. Studies have proven that late fees disproportionately affect children living in poverty. Those are the exact children that we need in the library. So when we eliminated late fees, what we found is happening is people's bringing their stuff back. It's great. Before, once, something was overdue, a lot of people would be like, ugh, late fees, I'm just not, whatever. I just won't go back to the library ever. Well, now they actually bring it back, and we don't have to replace it. A replacement fee is much higher than the late fees we were getting. So it's excellent. It's really worked out well. And we're offered a real ID pop-up. We worked with the transportation department, had that back in the spring. We have another one scheduled this month, and we are working with them to schedule one in December. This is great for people who need that real ID for travel or whatnot, but maybe can't get to, I went to Paducah to get mine, and it was a long wait. So this is a really good thing for our community.
How do you get the word out? Is that not through your?
The Real ID?
I've missed
we
that.
allowed the transportation department to take care of that because you have to go through them to sign up.
Okay.
So that all is through the transportation department. On the other side, there's some numbers that I would like to go over with you because I'm proud of them. We received $30,709 in grant monies this past year. As you know, the state did away with the automatic grant it sent to libraries before this. So that is not any of that state money. These were all competitive applied for grants. It does not include those hotspots that were with the Emergency Connectivity Fund. It does include the hotspots that are with the hotspot laptop kits. That is a grant program. So if you included the Emergency Connectivity Fund, it is actually closer to $40,000 that we received last year in grant monies. Lots of different people have been working very hard on these. A lot of these are just $2,000, $3,000 grants. We spent a lot of time and effort trying to get these monies. 23,680 digital audiobooks were checked out last year. I looked 5 years ago, that number was 7,000. This is increasingly popular. People love listening to digital audiobooks. And I think that's great. It shows that more and more people are enjoying literature and reading, because we consider all forms of reading in Marshall County, and I think that's great. We had 16,717 people attend our library programs this year. We did not go back to in-person programming until March, and this number is higher than 2019. Before COVID, we were averaging 22 people per program. We are now averaging 47 people per program. We have more than doubled how many people are attending our programs. This is everybody from toddlers up through senior citizens. There are a lot of toddlers. And there are a lot of toddlers using the library. And based on research about children using their library early in life and gaining those early literacy skills, and the number of them there are, we need to, as a community, start thinking about how we are going to retain those children in 15 years, because we are going to have some bright, creative people entering the workforce. I mean, they're coming to everything. Those kids are learning, they're exploring, and every study shows that if they start that young, they're going to do great things. So I am really excited. With the help of the Marshall County School System, we served 6,300 meals this summer. We had almost 1,000 meetings at the library over the past year. Hopefully you have all had an opportunity to come and see our meeting space and be in our meeting space. It is gorgeous. It's the reason we needed to get Calvert City's meeting space up to the standard of the Benton one, because we have so many groups coming in that we can't accommodate them all still, even with that many rooms that we have. And so Calvert City is a great area for meeting because it's right there off the interstate. And so when you have people coming from multiple counties, which a lot of our meetings are like that, it's Marshall County groups pulling in people from the region. They hear about our meeting space and they come, and it's attracting such a wide variety of people. There was one day I walked through, and coming from my office, I saw some college students studying in the study room. There was an end-of-life planning session workshop in meeting room B, and so everybody was in suits and looked very nice. Then I walked by the conference room, and there was a bunch of roofers having a meeting. And then in meeting room A was our TOPS ladies, who are mostly some senior citizens who really like to have fun. And it was just the greatest illustration of how the library is for everyone. And it's reaching out and meeting all those different levels and needs. $575 is the amount that a local business person saved using our makerspace. I was talking with someone who had recently started a small business here, and they were very excited because they had finally got enough money to purchase a vehicle for their business. But they'd gotten a quote on getting their logo put on it, and it was going to be $600. And they just weren't at the point that was going to be this added expense. It was stressing them out a little bit. And so I was like, hey, our makerspace, you can cut vinyl. I mean, if you're willing to learn and do it yourself. And so that person was able to cut that logo. In addition, because of the way the sheets are, several small logos to use elsewhere for $25. And that really excites me, that we are able to help those small businesses that are just starting out. Now, obviously, if you have enough money, you're going to want to go and let the professionals do it for $600 because you got to get it on straight. You've got to learn the software. But if that's not an option for you, we give you an option. We're here to help our community grow in all ways, including economically. And finally, 9.2 is the tax rate voted on by our Board of Trustees. It is the compensating rate for the following year, and it is a decrease from last year's rate. And the personal property rate has decreased to 10.74, which is 3 points less than last year. So, any questions on that information? I know it was a lot, I threw it out there.
Do y'all have any questions?
You answered my question, that last point.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Looking at some of these numbers, how many that you know of as far as businesses or for profit that utilize the library?
Oh. Do you have
So these would be businesses that actually are formed to make a profit.
Yes, but they cannot,
Do y'all do fees?
no, but
No
you
fees.
cannot sell things in our meeting rooms or do anything that makes money in our meeting rooms. So what our meeting rooms are being used for is training opportunities, regional meetings, I believe some,
Would it be fair to say that it's to benefit their overall objective as a business?
I guess, I mean,
And you may not know, I'm just
mean,
asking.
we tell them clearly our rules, which are clearly you cannot make money here, you cannot,
So they can't sell,
they can't sell anything, they can't enter into any business deals while in there. A lot of times these are, I think,
do y'all monitor?
huh?
Do you monitor for those things? Or is it just an advisory posted?
It's posted, they
Do they
also
sign
have to, they
anything?
do have to sign, yes. Our policy is given to each person who reserves a meeting room, and then it is signed.
Is there a way to determine from the numbers how many are? You don't have to get it
No,
today,
I
but
mean-
I'm just curious.
I would say less than 20%, definitely. Definitely less than 20. I mean, mostly we are talking about tops, and we're talking about, there's a knitting group, and there's a, like different community groups that use that space as their meeting, would be the majority of the meetings held in that room.
I think I know the answer to this one, but the cost of the Benton Library, that's 7.2 million?
Is that correct? Don't ask me numbers that I don't have in front of me. I am not a number detail person. And also, I came in as that project was completed. So
Correct.
I am not sure. I thought the number was 6 something. Yes, it was 6 something. And that is bonded. We're set in our payment for, I believe, 20 years.
We have 3 libraries.
3 branches, yes.
There are 3 branches.
And then a bookmobile. The first library service in Marshall County was a bookmobile back when they began working on the dam.
And I noticed on the literature, I get, when I communicate with folks, there's obviously potential to misunderstand this last segment here, that is the compensating rate,
That is the compensating rate, correct?
which is calculation, if anyone has time. Gary, you're retired. It's a great read, the compensating rate formula. You can go through it, but the way I understand it is that the compensating rate from the state may change, but the revenue does not. It kind of is the
Supposed
same.
to somewhat even out, yes.
Same revenue.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that folks may, when they read this, they think that the compensating rate is going down, that taxes are being saved, when actually the revenue is similar.
Similar, yes.
We can see that some of our taxing districts, not the library, but some of our taxing districts has gone above the compensating rate, which that means they have raised the tax. So it's just an opportunity to educate folks in the community, because there's a lot of people that don't understand the compensating rate and what that means, so.
Yes. Compensating rate means that we will have approximately the same amount of money this year to provide services that we had last year.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Those are just my questions. I appreciate it.
And while I am available to you, I noticed it was not on the agenda today, but we do have 2 board appointments coming up for the Marshall County Public Library. We had, I believe it was about 8 persons submitted an application. We forwarded 4 names to KDLA, and they have been forwarded to you guys. Does anybody have any questions about those 4 nominees that I can answer for you today? No?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and sharing information is literally my job. So if you ever have any questions, need anything at all, just contact me. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Start it and then see. We're going to see if we can't get Laurel connected with us. We'll wait and see. Last I talked to her earlier this morning, she was stuck in traffic in eastern Kentucky, and you can imagine where she's at, that connectivity to the internet may be somewhat limited, but we're going to try. August personnel changes. We can go ahead and do that while we're waiting for a response.
So these are August personnel changes. David Maddox, full-time sheriff, SRO, effective 8/1/22 at $25.75 per hour. April Darrington, county attorney's office, add part-time child support, effective 8/1/2022 at $22.02 per hour. Jesse Hicks, full-time sheriff deputy, effective 8/8/2022 at $23.95 per hour. Anthony Graymore, part-time park labor, effective 8/2/2022 at $12 per hour. Laura Willoughby, county attorney office, wage increase to $13.99 per hour, effective 8/1/2022. Brenda Edwards, county attorney office, wage increase to $15,120.98 per year, effective 8/1/2022. Tracy Story, county attorney office, wage increase to $24.72 per hour, effective 8/1/2022. Chris Holt, part-time deputy jail instructor, effective 8/9/2022 at $14 per hour. Gary Darrington, road department seasonal, effective 8/15/2022 at $12 per hour. Brian Durrell, full-time deputy jailer, effective 8/26/2022 at $13.39 per hour. Chris Beavers, full-time sheriff deputy, effective 8/29/2022 at $19.57 per hour. Doug Jordan, sheriff deputy, pay increase to $25.51 per hour, effective 8/29/2022. Addison Frizzell, part-time deputy jailer, effective 8/30/2022 at $13.39 per hour. Adam Norwood, court security, promoted 8/16/2022, wage increase to $15.75 per hour. And Sammy Myers, court security, promoted 8/16/2022, wage increase to $16.50 per hour.
Is there any discussion?
Move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Old business, item A, approve the minutes, August 16th meeting, August 16th public hearing, and August 25th special call meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let me go back to the guest list. I don't see Elena. No, she's here, but I don't see her on the agenda. Your old business. You said it. Okay, so we'll be dealing with you in old business. Yeah.
Do you want to?
Good morning. This is old business, ordinance 2013 and 2019 07 related transient tax.
Yep, okay. I appreciate your patience in this. So, as we know in the last session, the legislator updated the language to our primary statute, 91A.39D, to expand some language and include some new, just some new types of accommodations, just because sort of the travel landscape has changed over the last several decades. So, this new language will take effect January 1st, 2023. So they have added, the new effective language reads that every person, company, corporation, or others like or similar persons, groups, or organizations providing occupancy of a suite, rooms, cabins, lodgings, campsites, or other accommodations charged by any hotel, motel, inn, tourist camp, tourist cabin, campgrounds, recreational vehicle parks, or any other place in which accommodations are regularly furnished to transient for consideration or by any person that facilitates the rental of the accommodations by brokering, coordinating, or in any other way arranging the rental of the accommodation shall pay monthly to the commission, blah, 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 on the 20th of each month. So it just kind of includes everybody at that point. And so we needed to update this, but then when the ordinance were brought up at the last month, just because of a delinquency issue that we have, I asked for kind of a pause to for you guys to have a chance to review Georgetown's ordinances, just because their penalties and sort of some of the things that they are able to do just I think would help our case as well, and the board agrees. So I did send over a copy of Georgetown's ordinances last week via email to all of you. I can either go through some of the high points, or if you have any questions regarding those. The gist of it is very similar to ours, but with respect to penalties, right now our current penalty is only 1%, with the current interest of 0.5%, whereas their penalty is 10% for being late, and then 1% interest. They have a $250 fine or 30 days, no more than 30 days in jail for filing a fraudulent return. And that's not something we really have in ours. And then, of course, once a property is delinquent over 30 days, the commission in Georgetown is able to put a lien or have a lien granted to put against the property. So, and just because of a certain situation that we're in, this was a good opportunity for us to maybe strengthen ours. And then I would like to just ask for some guidance and I guess some direction from the fiscal court as far as enforcement goes. If it's going to fall on the commission to be the enforcer of the penalties, or if it is going to fall on the treasurer's office. And I think maybe just some clarification or some direction on who needs to be sort of navigating and maintaining the returns and just the accuracy and the timeliness of it. The second ordinance that Georgetown had was similar to ours, that requires the short-term rentals to register. They require an annual registration as well. Every registration is given an account number or a registration number, and then these property owners are actually expected to put their registration number on their profile, whether they're on Airbnb or Vrbo, which would be a huge help to us, because then we would be able to, it would help us identify if that property has registered or not. And they required a fee. Our board did not think that was necessary. It was like $25 fee. Our board said we're just more concerned about just making sure that they're registered each year. And then there were some zoning things, obviously, that we would not have to really look at for ours. So there are a few tweaks that need to be made, but sort of the gist of it is, I think would help the tourist commission function a little bit more efficiently when it comes to transient room tax. So,
Okay, I got a question.
yes.
So currently, they're due on or before the 20th.
Mhm.
So they are officially late after that date, right?
Yes.
So is that 20th, I mean, was the thought process there that that's essentially a late period, you know what I mean? Like normally, you're due on the 1st, let's say if it's your mortgage or something, you're due on the 1st, but you're not truly late until the
I would
10th
say
or
you would have
something.
30, I would say 30 days past the 20th. If you're more than, I mean, you could be considered late, but we don't really, the way the ordinances are sort of suggest is that you don't really have to start the penalties and things, it's within that 30-day window. But we give
After?
them 30-day, well, I think that that would be something that we could discuss and clarify as to whether or not we would like for the late, what, is it late on the
Right.
21st day, you know,
Right.
on the 21st, or is it late, considered late within 30 days or after 30 days of the 20th? That is up for you all to decide. And I will enforce, or whoever needs to enforce can do so accordingly.
So normally, is that coming in?
And I will just say, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt,
That's
but
all right.
we do not enforce it at all currently. Really, people remit their transient tax just whenever they so choose. Luckily, the majority of our resorts and motels, hotels have been doing it for so long. They just have a good rhythm and a good pattern. This is mostly an issue with our short-term rentals of them. Sometimes they remit it just when if they've had rentals that month, and then we don't see another form from them for, months at a time. Sometimes they just want to pay it at the end of the year and write one check. It's just kind of all over the board. And so this is just really, I guess this is kind of us taking a stand.
Okay, so that's a good point then. The only way that you could do it and truly keep up is that they would have to notify you if they did not have any as well. Or
Yes.
you
Well,
would
no.
assume
If
that
they
they're
had-
late.
Even if they did not rent out their property, if there was $0 in gross rentals, they're supposed to send in a zeroed out return.
Right. Oh, they're already supposed to do that,
There's
and they're
already-
not
Mhm.
doing it. Okay.
So, and I mean.
Yeah,
it
because
may
if
be-
not, you assume they're late,
Mhm.
but you don't really know if they're late.
Don't really know at this point in time. And it's just, it's a really a daunting task. I mean, we have about 175 private home rentals that we don't know who's registered, we don't know who's not registered. Once all of this kicks in on January 1st, it's going to also get interesting because the actual third-party booking agents will be expected to remit the transient tax on behalf of the property owners. But we still need the property owners to send in their return just without payment so that we can verify what the platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo are sending in. It's going to be a tricky couple of months figuring it all out, but I think we can. I'm sorry, this is not an easy thing.
Well, let's shed some light on areas where, when it comes to a transient tax, or when it comes to any tax, local tax, if a business or a resident who owns a business, let's say they go through a CPA office, the CPA office is telling the individual, you have to remit, if they're filing their taxes for the business, they have to remit to the county their costs for the OTA. And in this case, the transient tax is no different. I find it interesting that just with my own knowledge that the transient tax, I don't know if it's just not known since this is all new. I mean, the transient tax has always been there, but with the current changes, I don't think that the individuals don't know. if they're doing their taxes through a certified public accountant office, they're going to be advised what taxes they have to remit to the county. If it's an individual that's doing it themselves, they may be aware of it and they're
May not be. And
may
there's,
not be.
I mean, there's always been sort of confusion because a lot of times the platforms, they'll say, well, we'll collect all the fees on your behalf and then we'll send you your payment. And so what we've learned is oftentimes they assume that the corporation or the third party is collecting it and remitting it, but it never trickles down far enough to the local level. They'll collect the 6% sales tax, and I'm fairly positive the 1% transient tax for the state as well, but it does not normally go as far as the 3%. Now that is supposed to change January 1st. So it was included in the House Bill 8, the tax reform, these third parties that they were required to collect all taxes. But yeah, that is something that our office can work on, an education piece and just figuring out the best way to get the information out there. It is one of those things that I think when people move to the area or they buy a vacation home, they're not necessarily going to go check the Fiscal Court's website for, ordinances. It's just not something that I think people normally think of, but it's hard. If people are buying vacation homes, they're not necessarily coming to my office. They may come into the chamber and ask for like a welcome packet, but there's just not really a streamlined process that can get us in front of property owners. But we can certainly work on that. Try something.
It sounds like to me the board, which ultimately would fall on you, is when it comes to the transient tax, the changes. It's good to hear. I know we've had these discussions because in the bigger cities they were already doing it. So this is good that the General Assembly stepped in and made these changes that across the state, smaller communities can actually get some.
Start to be treated fairly, and put us on an equal playing field for sure.
Absolutely. So in a way, I think the court, even though it is a tax that we put in place, having the actual board that deals with the members within the community to kind of have some oversight on that, kind of like the middle person. The treasurer's office, during that time, they're busy. We only have 3 people in that office. So I know it may be throwing a little bit more on your plate.
Well, luckily I've just hired a bookkeeper. So
it kind of.
So I do now have a person who's sort of in place to help with the enforcement piece. So if the fiscal court is open to maybe, it's completely fine that the payments are still, brought to the treasurer's office and remitted. But as far as the actual returns and the enforcement of those, I completely agree. If the commission and my office could have a little bit more oversight on that, just so that we can try to stay on top of those properties and just try to limit as many delinquencies as possible. I think that would be a big help.
Yep.
Yeah. So as far as next steps, I don't really, I mean, are we okay with these? And
So currently, we do not have something in there as it relates to the enforcement, the board, whoever it is that's doing that enforcement, review of those folks.
Yeah, there's not really clear language, I guess, is the good way. It just says that the returns are to be remitted monthly, to the county treasurer's office
Currently.
or a registered agent.
Yeah.
And so I guess just if we were to kind of take this route of what some of the language of what Georgetown's, it does provide the commission just the ability to really kind of sort of step in and enforce the ordinances.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I've been working with Elena on this for several years. The county has been progressive as far as trying to streamline something. The General Assembly has really made this a lot more efficient for us.
Yeah, it's finally opened the door.
And so it's kind of coming back down. It really would make it a lot more efficient with the additional language that's been added for the actual transient tax to be reviewed, as she stated. It'll help the treasurer's office. When we put that ordinance in place, even years ago, it was an ordinance that was put in place. And I think you said it, most people just don't pay attention to local ordinances. So it's our responsibility to help facilitate that need. And there is definitely a need. And it would be a lot better for Elena and her staff to get involved because you know the clientele, you know the atmosphere. The treasurer's office is obviously our way to put a collection section in the ordinance, but really that big gap is being filled by Elena and her staff.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So whatever you need me to do next, as far as how this is written up or what, I don't know.
I would think the court would look to, put actionable language in the ordinance that would direct that to your office.
Okay.
Is how we can help facilitate that need. That'd be my opinion.
I agree, thank you. Are there any other questions for me regarding any of the language? I know campgrounds has been, but yes, the language does include campgrounds. I believe that we do need to keep that language in there. However, it would apply the same. It would only be transient campsites, so anything less than 30 days. Anything, if campers are there all season, if they're rented out on a monthly basis, they would be exempt. But anything that is under 30 days would be subject to all taxes, just as any other kind of accommodation.
So not the enforcement, but the penalty piece of this, is that something, do you think, that is relative to the size of Georgetown and Scott County? Or are you suggesting that we take their exact verbiage?
It's just a recommendation. With Georgetown, with them being so close to Lexington, Louisville area, they have chain hotels, and so, but whereas we have way more private home rentals than they'd have. So I do think that it's comparable, but it is up to you guys what you want to put in there as far as penalties, and we can leave them exactly the same, the 1% penalty for delinquency and then the 0.5% interest. We can leave the $250 late fee and just begin enforcing that. And the being able to grant a lien is completely the fiscal court's. That's your decision. I just wanted to provide this ordinance as an example. Because it does, when we find ourselves in a position of severe delinquency, it gives us a little bit more to work with.
So in this particular case, I think, of course, they have a commission, and I think, I'm sure they're probably given the authority to do that then. So are we saying that would be the commission's authority as far as enforcement?
When you say commission?
The tourism.
The board?
Yeah.
Well, Elena and her staff are the full-time, if you will, members of tourism. The board is just a advisory. I mean, the enforcement's going to come from the ordinances directing the board, but she's the full-time employee. She's doing all the work. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying, like like if it gets to the point of a lien, will they give that to the county attorney, or is it their responsibility and whoever
Yeah.
they use as an attorney do that?
Well, if the fiscal court creates the ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong, in that ordinance, it gives actionable items for her to enforce, then yes, that process, the lien would be put to the county attorney's office.
Okay.
We're given the directive. She has no power, the board has no power to
I
make
don't
that.
think I'd want that power in either. You guys just tell me what to do, and then I will. That's the way I like to operate. So it does say, I mean, in section 2, I mean, it says a lien is granted unto the commission upon all property, real or personal, any person, business, corporation, that is delinquent. If we want to change that to the fiscal court, and it just gets to the point where if me and my staff, we come across a delinquency, we can't get them current within 30 days, I can bring it to the fiscal court, and then it would be up to the fiscal court to grant the lien. I'm fine to do it that way if that's how we see fit.
I mean, we do vote and approve. I appoint, and the fiscal court approves appointment of members of the board. So it is our ordinance.
Yeah.
And this is the part that most elected officials don't want to deal with, but that is the part of doing business. Some of these for-profit entities out there are making money, and if there's delinquencies, now with the support of the General Assembly changing the law, it gives us the ability to enforce those delinquencies. That would be my recommendation. But what's the pleasure of the court?
Well, we don't have an actual presented full new ordinance, correct? So what we're looking for today is to give guidance to Elena to work again through the county attorney to draft an ordinance specific to Marshall County, correct?
Correct. You have an ordinance. We have a current ordinance, and there's going to be an amendment to that ordinance. The court can, at its pleasure, direct Elena to work with the county attorney to draft some language.
Just as a matter of more of a housekeeping matter, I would say that when Elena gets with me and gives me the suggestions that she wants to see in there based upon what she's heard today, that I think it would be cleaner just to do 2 brand-new ordinances and have the 2 old ones just be repealed effective December 31st, 2022, and the new ones effective January 1, 2023. Rather than try to piecemeal those old ones together with the new stuff, I think it's just better to ditch those old ones and put in the new ones.
I would also suggest that in that correspondence, that my office is involved in that correspondence. We're still waiting on a prior directive from the fiscal court to the county attorney to draft a ordinance, that there's been no communication to my office. The ordinance of creating a 911 board, and that was done over last year.
I've done all I can do on that.
You haven't presented anything to my office, so
I've been given no direction from the 2 members of the court who wanted to work with me on that. I had a draft ready. I sent it to them. It died.
the court actually voted as a court to direct you to create an ordinance.
Correct, and I did so.
And what I'm saying is, if we do this, my office, as the presiding officer, I haven't received anything.
The court appointed 2 people to work with me on it, and I did so.
Nothing, you were directed to present it to the court.
No, I was directed to work with members that were appointed.
Okay.
I never got anything that was said, yes, present this is ready to be presented.
The presiding officer hasn't received anything.
Well,
To present to the
that's because there
court.
hasn't been a final draft that they have said that they're comfortable with to present to you. So there's no reason for me to present anything to you.
Interesting.
What's interesting about it?
As the presiding officer of the fiscal court, I haven't received any communication on an
That's
action.
because there's nothing
Listen,
ready to present to you.
You asked a question. You asked a question.
Yeah,
I'm going to finish
I'm telling you, there were two people
Can-
that were presented, that were
Counsel?
directed to work with me. I drafted a draft, and that was it. They didn't tell me that it was ready to present to you or react
You
yes
asked
or no
a
on it.
question, let me finish.
Okay.
This isn't a courtroom. As the presiding officer, nothing has been presented to my office.
There was
Period.
nothing ready to present to you.
But you're not listening.
Yes, I am listening.
Nothing has been presented to my office. My information today is if that is what the court wants to do, I want it in the action that it is presented to my office for review as the presiding officer of this court. Period.
That's fine. But don't sit here and tell me that I have been derelict in what I was supposed to do, because I did
From
what I
my
was supposed to.
position, you have.
Well, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it, however wrong it may be.
As the presiding officer, that's the way I see it. Okay, let's move forward.
Did I already make the motion?
No, there's been no
Okay.
motion.
I'll make the motion that Elena work with the county attorney to draft these two ordinances and send the judge executive's office a copy of that draft once finished, prior to submitting it to fiscal court for a vote.
Thank you. There's a
Second.
motion
Why
and
wouldn't
a
I send it
second.
to all four?
Hold on, there's a
Why
motion and a second.
And there's time for discussion.
Counsel,
Why wouldn't I send it to all four of you?
there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I've only heard two ayes. Were there more than two ayes?
No.
So motion dies.
Rather have it sent to myself as well, but
Well, I don't have a problem with that. All right.
Thank you.
Wait, it's not over. So I move that we have Elena work with the county attorney to draft these two new ordinances related to transient tax, and to send out the draft to all four members of the fiscal court prior to the date that we're going to vote on that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move for a short recess.
Thank you, Elena. Hang on, we got Laurel on the phone. Her connectivity is, this shouldn't be that, I know there's a motion to.
I withdraw my
rescind.
motion.
Thank you, sir. Elena, Laurel, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Justin is going to ask that you expedite as quickly as possible. Go ahead,
Understood.
you got the floor.
Okay, so I think I have a couple updates for everyone. One, NRCS grant has finally been scoped for us, so I think I need to ask the court's permission or to go out for procurement for the NRCS debris. That's the stream debris.
Okay, do y'all remember the NRCS? Those, Andy went out, identified several streams in the tornado-affected area. We need to allow procurement for debris removal.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next.
The next is we only had one response for the tornado safe room, for the architect engineering. I'd like to re-procure or republish that for FEMA purposes. We really like to see at least 3 responses. I don't know if I didn't send it to enough people or what the reason is, but I'd like to republish that and then get at least 3 responses. So asking for permission to republish the procurement for safe tornado community shelter safe room.
But before we do that, this has not been opened. Council, what do you advise? So the BFW's grant, the advice is to deny the grant, or deny the engineering proposal.
Do you need that amended to deny and put out, or does those need to be 2 different?
This is a separate, this will be a separate.
All right, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, on what Laurel was talking about is to re-advertise for procurement of the safe house engineering.
Motion on the floor.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Next is just an update. Both of our big debris projects grants have now been obligated by FEMA. We'll be turning in that final submission for payment today or tomorrow. So we're almost done with our FEMA debris reimbursement. But that brings up the items that were not paid by FEMA debris reimbursement, specifically, Judge, I think some waterway debris that is neither FEMA nor NRCS, possibly TVA. So we'd like to submit for the state safe grant for some amount between 200 and 400,000 for that waterway debris.
Yes, the section that in Cambridge Shores that falls within TVA's property, I went out, did a boat tour on that section. There's residents out there that are asking for that debris to be picked up. As Laurel said, the FEMA doesn't qualify. So this is would it be amend the request for the SAFE grant?
Yes.
From 2 to 400, I would say 400,000 to be safe.
Yes.
So that she can submit that for the court, on behalf of the court, for the SAFE grant funds.
Move that we amend that grant application to increase it by $400,000 for.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
So the last 2 updates are emergency protective measures, including all of our mutual aid, are just at the final stages. That was a lot of work. But so we'll be submitting invoices to the court for all of our mutual aid providers. That includes law enforcement. I know many of those fire departments, sheriff's office, other fiscal courts are probably might be asking members of the court like, hey, we were happy to help, but what about that funding, that mutual aid funding? So we are now, it will be obligated. The fiscal court will have it in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks. And so probably at next fiscal court, those invoices will be ready for approval or payment to the other providers. That's just an update. And then also our Cat B, our emergency protective measure. So that was all the EOC time, the repairs or the resupply of the 911 center of all the supplies and the cleaning of that after the event. That's all just in the final stages. So good news. I think that's all I have. Let me check my chat to Brad to make sure I've gotten all my items. Procurement. We will be asking for an extension for NRCS. Originally, they said we had to be done by October 2nd, but they didn't give us the scope of work until just last week. So there's no way we can get it procured and the work completed by October 2nd. And they are going to give us up to 18 months to complete. I don't think we want to take that long, because the reason that we need the debris out of the streams is because it's a danger to the community. So we'll still proceed as rapidly as we can, but we will not be meeting NRCS's original deadline of October 2nd. There's just no way. So we'll be submitting for an extension. Excuse me. And I think that's all I have. Any questions on the FEMA reimbursement or NRCS or
I have a question.
404 mitigation?
Yeah, I have a question on the SAFE funding. HB1 I'd ask you, or I was concerned about the time frame, especially as it related to those tornado shelters and how long it was going to take. And am I right that was extended by 2 years into 2025 through HB1?
Yeah. Yes, I do think so. And there may be some additional changes in the next session, because now there was the Western Kentucky Safe Fund and now there's the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund. So I imagine there will be some additional compliance or reporting or deadlines, because now this is a bigger program.
Yeah. And the positive there is that those funds are being given to Eastern Kentucky are additional to the 300
correct.
million
Correct.
as well.
Yeah, you're not competing with
Right.
one another. No.
Yes. Yeah, so that's great. Okay.
Laurel, I did.
Judge, have you updated the court on the good news with North Marshall Water District being a safe grant? Or is that appropriate now?
No, go ahead. I briefly mentioned it earlier, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's great news for Marshall County. And really it took quite a bit of work, both on the judge's behalf and North Marshall Water District. And I'll say on my behalf as well, to really kind of campaign to the Safe Grant Committee that North Marshall Water District needed to be an applicant. And the reason being, the Fiscal Court did not want to put down $1 million of asphalt to then have North Marshall Water District come up and tear it all up to put their water lines down. So we really needed to get the money into the water district's hand ASAP so they can make the repairs before the Fiscal Court did the asphalt repairs. So this safe grant funding of $400,000 allows, one, the water lines to be repaired, the underground water lines to be repaired in the Cambridge Shores area prior to the Fiscal Court having to put down the asphalt. And FEMA just had a really hard time understanding how underground water lines could be damaged by a tornado, and it was really all the emergency response vehicles, the debris trucks, the trees pulling up the water lines, the debris hitting the meters, and so this safe grant really just solved all the problems there. The safe grant at its finest, just really spanning the gap and fixing the need. So I'm really happy with the state legislature and KYEM and DLG for helping on that.
I agree. I don't know what this disaster would look like without that gap being funded. That's
Correct.
probably the best
Yep.
way to explain it. Now, we did briefly, we found out this morning that we knew KIA, DLG had closed the window, but they did make some announcements on the two. And this is totally something separate, but
Okay.
it does affect North Marshall Water's overall cost and project. They were awarded $400,000 on potentially $1 million project. Rivercrest advised us this morning that on DLG's website, they approved covering 100% on a project in Calvert City that was about $700,000 that frees up ARPA monies that the court was going to commit. So I had talked to Roger earlier this week, So with the SAFE funds, 400,000, and with these ARPA dollars, next court meeting, I'll be presenting to the court to help North Marshall fund that entire project so that they can get in there.
It's amazing.
Now, the extension, I know Roy has been, we have
The
been.
asphalt?
Yes.
I recommend that you move forward just as quickly as possible on all of the asphalt repairs because,
No, wait a minute, you said
one,
asphalt
plants
repairs.
will close. Are you talking about asphalt?
Well,
Except for Cambridge with the North Marshall water lines.
gotcha.
All the other, so the West Marshall, Dove Lane, Bondurant, that all of the other locations, asphalt happen as quickly as possible because one, we have a deadline. Two, we have, plants will, excuse me, close down about Thanksgiving. So we don't have a whole lot of time. We can't necessarily wait for FEMA to obligate those funds, but we do know that if FEMA does not obligate those funds, that the SAFE grant will cover it. So if we're wanting, or if we're able at all to make that move, I would recommend doing so.
So you're
It does appear that the asphalt, I've said since day one and talking to the court that FEMA just does not like to pay for asphalt repairs, but at least, I think we had 5 asphalt projects is the way it broke out, and at least 2 of them are obligated or almost obligated, meaning FEMA has all the way approved them. So I'm very hopeful for the remaining 3. I don't see any problems that would prevent FEMA from obligating those last asphalt projects, but also anything could happen. It's not a guarantee, but it's looking pretty good.
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So we should go ahead and move on paving
I think so.
all the
Except for
roads
your-
minus Cambridge.
Except for the ones that would be delayed by the water line.
Okay. And I'll get with Roger and make sure that he knows they can go ahead and start moving.
Absolutely, they should start immediately.
So roads that they get done, they may be able to get it done in your window to where you can pave those
Right.
roads. But, okay. Do you guys understand? How's it looking in eastern Kentucky? I know that's a very broad statement.
It's usually I can roll into a disaster and say, okay, this is a mess, but we need to do X, Y, and Z. And this one, I'm like, ooh, it's I don't know how much money it will take to properly fix this. So this is a big mess. And thank you to Marshall County for sending folks from the road department that really helped the morale of Knott County, and also the folks from the Parks Department who really helped kind of get some initial messaging out. Without Marshall County, I don't know how Knott County would have gotten up off the ground.
We know they're in our prayers. They've got a challenge ahead of them that's a lot
Yes.
different than ours.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything? Laurel, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate, a lot of people, they just don't see what you do behind the scenes and your staff. And we are so proud that we took you on. The dividends are being paid. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that sentiment. Bye.
Have a good day.
Move for recess.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll go ahead and call Marshall County Fiscal Court back to order. Let's see. Okay, KOHS grant. All right, so this is the grant that was awarded, the $79,000 that was awarded for the repeaters for the fire department. We had communicated with KOHS as far as transferring that over to what I call the interoperability plan. But we had questions with KOHS as far as that grant monies only being available for EMS and fire. They said it was fine. Later, they came back and said that that may be an issue. So it was what we suspected. Those dollars are restricted for EMS and fire. So I reached out to Brian Cutsinger so that we can keep that grant. Fire department said they don't want it. EMS can apply, or actually they can do the grant documentations that are required for EMS to get their repeaters and utilize that $79,000 for their operations. So that is the issue that's at hand. They got till June 2023 for that to be submitted, but there's a lengthy process in between. So Brian is already working on that, but I'm bringing it to the court to go ahead and update you on that status and entertain an actionable item to allow EMS to use that grant.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. New business, item A, advertise for bids for 2022 audit. We already did it. B, Unsolve and Code Red. We already partnered, you got that contract? We already partner with Code Red? No, the Unsolve. We already partner with Code Red, the CMAP team in Calvert. Let me pull this up. Chris has worked with them. They have a requirement to notify the community in their jurisdiction. And the IPAWS, which actually has a system that they can utilize through our 911 center to notify any in the Polygon area that is selected, any cell phone in that area, which is huge. It's not just local residents, it's any cell phone in that Polygon area. It falls under the National Weather Service. It's a federal program, but Chris has linked the plants up to this. They voted to go ahead and fund that portion. And it's about $7,000. I want to try to pull this up so I can give you the actual amount. They are going to cover the cost. All right, well, it's a DocuSign, so it's termed out, but there's a hard copy. Can you go grab it? Yeah, it's unlocked. It should be right there by my computer. It's an on-solve contract. What this does is it allows them to access Code Red with this contract. The amount that is going to be increased on the contract, they will cover 100%. So we're providing a platform for them. They have come out, members of the board have come out and have taken a tour of the center, and they are definitely excited that service is being provided, and it greatly increases their requirement to notify the population in their jurisdiction. And this is just one example of the service that's being provided through our center. But what I'm going to ask the court is to adjust we'll make appropriations to cover that $7,000. That's going to be additional expense for that service, but then we'll invoice CMAP, and then they'll reimburse the total cost. But before we do that, I want to get you the exact amount.
Is their commitment ongoing or just this year?
It's I think it's a 3-year contract. It may be an annual.
So they committed through that entire contract, or was it even?
For the on-solve contract, yes. Yeah. It greatly increases their notification. And this is a service that is already out there. Yeah, that's fine. So we already have a contract with Code Red, which is $12,680. So the difference that covers the iPaws, $7,930. So we will basically, since we have the contract with Code Red, we will cover that expense, and then they will reimburse us the $7,930. So I'm asking the court to allow that appropriation transfer to cover that expense.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we already did the engineering. Item D, the tax rates. She did that too? That's hers? Okay. All right, so now we're on the property at 713 Golf Course Road.
Hang on a second. She didn't do that. She said we need to discuss it. Oh,
Yeah, the refuse.
But we still have to approve that we're going to take, the compensating rate though, right? Don't we have to separately vote on that? We don't vote on our compensating rate until we vote on everything? But you know what I'm saying? Wouldn't we need to vote on taking the compensating rate first and then vote on the rates as a whole?
We can do that now or do it at the next court meeting. They're supposed to, the refuse is supposed to have their board meeting before our next
I
court
thought in the
meeting.
past we had done that, and then the second one, then that way we knew what those were going to be, including ours.
I mean, you can do it all the way up to approving it before you actually approve the total, all the taxing districts. It's 6 in one hand, half a dozen others, whatever the pleasure of the court is at this point.
I move we take the compensating rate. How about that?
Which is?
0.89 on, right?
Mm-hmm.
0.89 on,
Should be real property.
yeah, on the real property. And if you're saying we don't need to do the other ones. Because you have all the
You
personal.
have tangible and personal. 9.2 was last year for real estate and tangible, personal 9.2. This year is 8.9, and tangible and personal.
Yeah, real property is 0.6, would stay the same. I move we take the compensating rate on all of these.
Yeah. So the motion is to take the compensating rate on the real property, real estate property, and the tangible and personal property.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 1713 Golf Course Road. That's the old building, Allied Services was just in. They vacated it. Just like the community center in Hardin, giving it up to the Hardin Fire Department. Is there a need for this building in our assets?
I talked to Brother Ken Lewis yesterday, I believe, is he the chair? He's associated with the senior citizens, and I think they are wanting future use of that building. And so I'm not in favor of selling it until we can give them the opportunity to get their stuff together and try to utilize that building.
I'm not in favor of that either.
I think Mr. Lewis has notified us that they are dissolved.
As far as I know, they're still meeting right now in the Joe Creason Center, isn't that correct? Mayor, are they meeting in the Joe Creason Center? Because of COVID. Well, I spoke to him yesterday, and he said that they do have future plans to get back together and try to utilize that building. So until we can give them the opportunity, I'm not comfortable with selling it right now.
I'll have to check, but I think they dissolved. But that's another point. This facility, was it? Do you remember off the top of your head when we had the fire issue?
It was
Electrical.
Yeah, it was the beginning of this year because it was a heating issue from the unit when it started smoking. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old is that facility?
1975, Wendell Ford was governor, I know that.
I question the occupancy of that building. When Allied moved out, I mean, that's just my observation of that facility. I understand the senior citizens were meeting at the Joe Creason building, is that correct? Yeah, they've been meeting there for some time. And how many members, does anybody know? Very few. I know Marcella's was offered for a meeting location. Do you know the expense?
No, I was trying to pull it up, and I mean, without digging into some old invoices and stuff and VIP and off the top of my head, the utilities there, I'm not really sure.
We also
Yeah.
have voting precinct there too. That's where Southwest Bend votes.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a location, obviously. A location can be looked at if the court were to entertain using another facility or getting rid of that facility. I mean, it's an old structure. We got a list of assets in the county that are just old facilities that are costing us money monthly. As a taxpayer, you know, if we don't look at what our expenses are, if we don't entertain discussion of our assets, I mean, there's quite a bit of monies just to keep the building, keep the lights on, so to speak. And when we're discussing dollars in the budget, I mean, we got a whole host of areas where, as we've always said, if we can't control our expense side, I mean, we're talking about compensating rates now. I mean, it's just going to eat away at the taxes that we get. Any discussion on that?
Pretty sure we've had it, it sounds like, I mean.
Okay. So no discussion other than, what was, you wanted, the court wanted to keep the building?
That's my vote, yes.
So there is an actionable item. So was there a motion?
I move we approve, I move we keep the
Was there
building.
though? I mean, you just brought it up. Is this just a discussion item, or is there a motion that we sell it?
No, this is an item to discuss.
Okay.
Do we want to keep it? Do we want to sell it? Do we want to bulldoze it down? I mean, what's the pleasure of the court? It's costing us monies sitting there. I have questions as far as the facility itself being occupied with the HVAC smoking. Guys, we got some old facilities. We can't not discuss. I personally would not say put anybody in that facility moving forward unless there's an inspection done to protect us. At a minimum, if that's, my position is we've got a lot of facilities. Some of these facilities we can get off our books, especially when there's opportunities. If we're going to talk about the senior citizens that are not organized as of today, being housed in it. I don't think that there's been a very in-depth discussion on this. We have the power to make a motion based off of a conversation, but I don't think that there's been a discussion as far as what we want to do, not just with this particular building, but all of our buildings. So was there a motion? Yes. The motion was for?
Keep the building.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to oppose, as I just stated, because we have yet to have further discussion on this. And I definitely oppose to any occupancy of that building before proper inspection of that building has taken place. So 3 for, 1 against, motion carries to keep the building. Road Department personnel.
This is a wage increase for Benny Garland. Hang on just a second. Let's see here. So he got his Class A CDL, so he's moving to a pay rate of $21.36 per the road department's pay scale, and I'd ask that be effective 7/1, as it should have been in place on July 1.
Should that
When did
not
he
have
get
been
that?
in place in January when he got the Class A?
Oh, I don't know.
No, he's saying 7/1.
7/1 of 22, just
You're
the new
talking-
budget. That's what I thought it was supposed to be.
I think he got that in January of '22.
I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure when it got them. I know we asked for them in the budget, asked for it in the budget.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know.
He told me January.
That's what he told me too.
So that would kind of be, if we did that, we'd have to go back and calculate without COLA from January 1st through June 30th on that increase, and then, so subtract it, and then July 1 to present with the COLA. So I'm going to need some direction on that. How you want to do it?
And before we answer that, he is using his CDL. Okay, because Casey is not, actually, Casey was using his level 3. So I just bring to the court's attention, it's been a standing position that if there's certifications that are being used, then those employees will get compensated for that. But the court voted down Casey, so we've kind of set up precedents with that. But Brad needs
I just need some
directives.
Yeah, just if you want to specify how you want to handle that, just because there was no the COLA wasn't in place January 1 through June 30th. So if we did that, if you back paid him for that amount, my recommendation would be the amount his increase should have been January 1 through June 30th without the COLA, and then July 1 to present, or the last pay period reflecting the COLA.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I would assume it's because the tornado, was there notification? I'm trying to understand January 1 when he got his CDLs. Was there notification? Or were you guys too busy with the tornado?
I think that sheet says January 25th on it.
What sheet?
His personnel sheet, I thought.
When he got his CDL?
Does it not?
When was his?
Is it not January 25th or something like that?
I don't have.
Is that 1/25/22?
Yeah.
Where'd this come from?
Wait, let me see. That's an 8. That was just when I dated this. That's August.
Oh.
No, I don't have anything for.
Oh, okay.
I don't have anything in his files. Let me double check.
No, I'm just saying, I know the road department was busy.
Could have been.
You don't have to check.
No,
I'm
I
just
checked. I don't
saying.
have anything on him as
Okay.
far as an info sheet reflecting anything in January.
Okay.
Verified on his license.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. it's
No,
not-
that's fine.
it's-
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah.
We know he's got it.
Yeah.
Bills and claims.
Oh, I see. That's not a 1.
I thought it was 1, 2.
Is there any reason to deny payment of the bills and claims? Hearing none, let the clerk record that the bills and claims be paid. Executive session. Go into executive session for litigation. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have no further discussion on the executive session. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.